Now, we all know about the mystery of the cattle mutilations that have been plaguing farmers for decades all around the world. And you will be terrified to know that cattle mutilations are still going on even to this day, and it is happening to a farming couple here in Australia up in North Queensland. And they liken it to something out of a horror movie. Hello and welcome back, or welcome to my channel. If you don't know what's going on here, well, I'm certainly not going to tell you that it's safe to be hiking in the Appalachian Mountains at night by yourself with no torch. But I am a horror artist and I like to draw what I talk about in the videos. Now, I like scary facts, scary stories, true crime, anything to do with the paranormal, aliens, conspiracies, all that kind of good stuff, and I like to draw. So what I do is I put all of that into these videos to hopefully bring you a unique experience. If you want to support me in any way, shape or form, I do have a Redbubble store where you can get these prints that I do in these videos. Or if you are a creative person, I do have an Etsy store where you can purchase felt toy patterns and you can create your own horror toys. So I've got horror movie characters on there. I have my own designs. Just go across there and you will see what I'm talking about. And I am reviving my TikTok account. So I had been posting a lot of stuff on TikTok that was the same as my YouTube channel but just condensed down. But now it's going to be separate and I'm going to be doing bite-sized pieces of information in those videos with smaller illustrations. So they're going to be completely different to what you see here on YouTube. So if you want to go across there and check out that, by all means. I will have a link to that down in the description below as well. Now, with that being said, let's get on with the video and let's get on with the drawing. Mick and Judy Cook are graziers that run a remote cattle farm 80 kilometres northwest of Mackay near Youngalla and have been going for roughly 20 years with around 1,100 cattle on a 14,600 hectare property, and for that last 20 years they have been finding cows mutilated. All up, the Cooks have lost around 20 cows. It all started one night when the Cooks saw strange bright lights just off in the distance around the boundary. It wasn't long after that Mick found his first cow dead, but at the time he didn't think too much of it as cows can die from drought and predators. But once a few more cows started dying, Mick decided to take a look further into it. Mick noticed that the cow he had just found dead by a river in 2019 had its udder, lower part of its cheek, tongue and one ear had been cleanly removed in absolute surgical precision. This is when he decided to go back and check out the previous cow deaths via photos that they had taken. Mick found that the other cows had also been surgically operated on too, in different ways. Some cows had had their eyes removed and wounds were hexagon in shape. There was no trace of blood and it had looked like the cuts were sealed like cauterization. Mick noted that with predator attacks, you can see teeth marks, rips, tears in the flesh, but this was not the case. There was also no signs of a struggle. These cows were found about an hour away from the Cook's homestead on the property. It's rough terrain and just seems really weird that a human would come in and do something like this, and plus they would have to actually pass by the house at the front of the property as the property is fully fenced and this is the only way in via a vehicle. A local vet, David Lemon, was called out to examine the cows, and in his 40 years of working in the industry and with livestock, he said he'd never seen anything like it. The cattle mutilations that made Mick stand up and pay attention happened in 2018, but prior to that, 10 years before, which was the first incidents, they really didn't think anything of it. They definitely thought it was strange, but that was it, and they never talked about it until their findings in recent years. The last cattle mutilation happened on the property around the end of 2022 with no blood, no trace of what did it, no tracks, no footprints, no vehicle tracks, absolutely nothing. Judy is convinced that aliens are to blame as it seems to be the only explanation. Mick also said that after the lights were spotted in the sky, the next day the cattle were on edge, easily spooked when he approached them, and he said this was absolutely not normal at all as his cows never had a problem with him. Mick and Judy have been skeptics of UFO and alien phenomena until the cattle mutilation incidents. These mutilations just defy explanation. Another instance too was one of their prize bulls had his penis removed with the anus and the flesh around the areas were completely undisturbed. Once Mick and Judy went public to local radio and newspapers, the other local farmers came forward and admitted that they too were experiencing weird shit with similar livestock losses. Another vet from New South Wales that specialises in livestock came to the Cook's farm to investigate, and he remains anonymous as he doesn't want the ridicule from the public. Says that he had been working with cattle for years and had seen this type of surgery before, and he said it's definitely not someone who works at an abattoir coming to do this because the surgery is too precise and clean. He leans more towards government agencies doing this as they probably have the technology that they hide from the public to do this. He added that the surgery done just can't be performed by vets as it's too exact, and one cow he saw one time had its third stomach removed, but everything else was intact and nothing else was disturbed. It's apparently impossible for that to be done even with our modern medicine. The Cooks even had one cow that died near the fence line end up on the other side of the fence the next day, which was impossible unless someone or something lifted it over. There was no drag marks or vehicle marks on the ground. There has also been strange chemical smells coming from the carcasses that other livestock and dogs just won't go near. Cattle mutilations have been recorded since the 1970s but have been going on much longer all around the world. America has a very high count of cattle mutilations with millions of cases, and mutilations are usually tied to unusual lights reported in the sky before it happens. It hasn't just been narrowed down to cattle either. It's been horses, goats, pigs, rabbits, cats, dogs, bison, moose, deer, elk, and even humans have been found mutilated in the same bloodless, precise way. The famous Snippy horse mutilation was done in 1967 with a 3.5-year-old man named Lady being found in Alamosa, Colorado on the King property, with the horse's head and neck being completely skinned and defleshed in such a way that was so precise and clean, with the cuts cauterized, and there was no blood anywhere. There was also a strong medical smell lingering over the carcass. This case was blamed on ETs as well, but the county sheriff, Ben Phillips, put it down to a lightning strike and didn't investigate further. There was no tracks, and even the horse's hoof prints stopped 30 meters from where it lay, like someone had just picked it up and placed it there. Either way, the characteristics of these deaths seem to all be the same: clean and surgical. No blood and specific organs removed, and usually the same organs are harvested and cauterization is done after the cuts. Livestock is usually around a 3 to 5 year old mark, and lab reports show that the mutilated animals show an unusually low level of vitamins and minerals in tissue samples. Also, chemicals are found too that are not normally near animals, and the hide of the animal is very brittle for being dead for a short amount of time. Like, I'm talking 5 hours after death when the skin is brittle, and that to me is just plain weird.
There are too many cases to list in a video of this nature, but if you get the hankering to research, go right ahead because you will just fall down a rabbit hole of information. Humans have been operated on in the same way. Now, there's only been, that I know of, 2 cases of this happening. One was actually a military Air Force sergeant, but I won't get into that story today. But the second one was of a man in Brazil that I actually did a video on, and I will have that video linked at the end card so you can watch it if you want to. It's about the Billings Reservoir body in Brazil, where a man had been mutilated in the exact same way that the cattle are, and even similar organs were taken, such as eyes, tongue, reproductive organs, and the anus. These mutilations are all coming from the same place, as far as I'm concerned. Whether it's ETs or not, it's all got the same hallmarks across all cases of coming from the same place. People try to debunk the mutilations by giving natural explanations, such as certain animals that target certain body parts like vultures go for the anus and eyes, to pranksters that are sick and twisted, satanic cults, blowflies, parasites, and even the government experiments that suspect disease and take samples. But even I'm not convinced. You can see that these aren't normal deaths. So I'm going to give you my crackpot tinfoil wearing theory. I think that it is actually aliens taking these parts for experiments and breeding programs. Now that's just my opinion. You can call me crazy. I don't give a shit. But there's too much evidence to suggest otherwise. And you just got to look back at all the cases. Like I said, go and knock yourself out. Go and have a look at all of them. It's all the same. They take the same things and they seem to be doing something with it. Whether they're creating a whole new, different kind of species on another planet, who knows? But I do believe that it's got to be either the aliens doing it, or my second theory that I will fall back on is the government is doing this for some really weird reason. Was trying to probably mutate things and yeah, hence the reason why there has been all throughout history mutated creepy looking monsters that have just appeared washed up on beaches and whatnot, because they think they can try and dispose of them into the ocean and the sharks will eat them. But if they're using chemicals that nothing will go near, well, it's not getting eaten. It's just getting washed up on the goddamn shores. But anyway, that's just what I think. Let me know what you think in the comment section below, because I'll be very curious to know what everyone's thoughts are on cattle mutilations. So the drawing that I decided to do for the video today was of this, basically aliens got a cow's head up on a rope hanging from the ceiling, and they've got some weird mutated creature on a stainless steel bench, and they are got their weird little creepy fingers going into it, basically that's how they detect and fix things or attach things, etc. And this horrid thing that's on the table has got a cow leg stitched in so many different ways attached to it on one side. There's one on the other side, but then it's got all these really weird tentacles coming off of it. So yeah, these aliens are just putting together all these weird parts and trying to sort of come up with some weird design. So that's the image that I got in my brain for this today. Sometimes I think the government is in cahoots with the aliens and they are working together to do these experiments on the human race and the animals here, because sometimes I do believe, actually no, I'll reframe that. I actually do believe that Earth is like a petri dish and it's an experimental planet where they've dumped us all on here with other creatures and different races, and they're just seeing how we live. That's just my opinion on it all. But anyway, that is it from me. If you like this kind of content, like and subscribe. Dislike it, I really couldn't care less what you do, because any interaction that you give me goes towards the algorithm for other people to find me. And hopefully you watch whatever is left of this video to see how the illustration turned out. And hopefully I see you guys in the next one. Bye.